Well, hello, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa, where, yeah, if you hear the clanging in the background, the wind is going ballistic here today for some unbeknown reason, but hey, all I can say is bring on the winds of change, that's for sure. And yay, I'm so happy and so grateful to have you back with me again today, Joanne Breeze. How are you, honey? From Australia. How is Oz? How are things going there with you?
Well, it's been really quite a busy time on every front with Joey's and emotions, and which we'll get into in a moment. And I must say thank you for the work you've helped me with in acceptance and seeing things are just in a different light. Because I don't think I could have jumped a hurdle that I needed to jump for my own healing. And that's to do with my father. We also, we'll get to that in a minute, but first up, this little one is our pixie girl, and she's doing extremely well. And she's watching the screen intently.
I was just saying to you off screen, it looks so amazing because their little ears just never stop. I mean, those little ears are constantly on the move. And obviously quite big ears. So they're obviously picking up a lot of information from a long way away. Well, I think really what's beautiful, I think, Jan, is that you've had your little Joeys. I'm sure they have played such an invaluable part in your healing. And we will get into that in a minute, as you said, sort of those of you who've been watching my shows with Jan, and I know you haven't been on for a while. All sorts of things going on. I know I've been traveling, so everything in my side is also a little bit haphazard right now. But I think, for those of you who've been following Joanne's story, she's had extreme abuse from ancestral lineage, satanic ritual abuse, ritual sexual abuse, child hunts, and all from her father, and really enabled. Gosh, I'll just mute that just for a minute. So, it's amazing to be able to, I always say as a healer, people who've come through such extreme cases and can really make that transformation into forgiveness and understanding, and therefore take the true essence of the message through. That is incredibly brave as well. But anyway, maybe we'll just backtrack a little bit. So, and I know we're really just going to be catching up and talking about things because you have definitely come through quite a journey these last few months as well. And as you say, part of that has been about dealing with your father, who, when you hear some of the things that he did, I mean, we're dealing with a monster, a real monster. I cannot imagine growing up with that, but you did, and you survived, and you thrived, and this is where you are. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to you, Joanne. Maybe just fill us in on what's been happening. Yeah, just unmute. You're still on mute, babe. Unmute.
Sorry about that. I'm chatting to myself. Going back now about maybe 6 weeks ago, there was a interruption into my life when I got phone calls and somebody had to become power of attorney over my father, who's still alive. He had to have his leg amputated. Now, it sent me into a spiral going down, 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 because they weren't sure whether or not he would actually come through this operation alive, or we may have to turn life support off because of his health and the fact that he had to lose his leg. So there was no way I was doing power of attorney. I had no interest at all, because I've always said, and I said to my parents many years ago, that was blood money. And I've gone into a depth now when it comes to blood money. There's more than just what I and my family went through, my siblings. It's blood money because of what happened to the Indigenous that were here on this land, because it was their land. So when we own land, it's blood money. So
Yeah.
my understandings really broadened out. And anyway, sorry, babe. My sister became power of attorney, and she ended up saying to me, well, Joe, it's just because I promised Mum that if, nobody else was, we all sort of scattered to the wind and didn't want to be involved. He's very, very narcissistic. He's actually a registered psychopath, and he doesn't stop. And he narcissistic or to the worst degree, and he doesn't know anything else to be any other way. So if you are within his range, it doesn't matter who you are. The games, as he says, let the games begin, because that's what makes him so happy, because he gets that reaction and it gives him pleasure, absolute pleasure. It's the only thing that gives him pleasure. So no way was I going to get too close or getting involved. So my sister took that on. That means she's going to have power of attorney and she will inherit. And as I said to her when she was doing the paperwork, I want nothing. I just don't want anything, because I just can't do that. Not for me, not for my soul, not for money. No, money. And it is, it's really blood money. So anywho, he went in for the operation. I hadn't spoken to him at all, and he was very, very frightened. And this is what I have been told, very frightened that he was going to be a vegetable when he came from the other side of the operation. And that's something he did not want to be. But he survived the operation and he came through with all his faculties intact still. And that, again, turned my world totally upside down. Because to my understanding, after everything this man has done and the absolute terror, I've got feet that aren't right because they were crushed when I was a child. And I've got a toe that goes that way and a toe that goes that way. Sorry, baby. And the doctors saved him. And that didn't sit right with me. And I had to go into, and I questioned, God, why? It doesn't seem right. It's wrong. And I got very emotional and I got very angry. And I didn't understand. So a few weeks after this happened, one day I was walking past my desk and the phone rang, and it was Chantel. And normally we don't coordinate like that at all. And I'd been praying and calling out and saying, my Heavenly Father, please help me because I can't do this. I can't do this. Why is he alive? Why is he still allowed to live? After everything he's done, and he hasn't changed. And he has no remorse. Not that he was showing at all. And okay, he was scared. And I thought, well, good. So you damn well should be scared. And Chantel straight away just said to me, what's happening for you, babe? And of course, Joanne relaxed into that precious love and just in her own way vomited out everything she was feeling. Totally. And Chantel talked to me for a very long time and asked me to mull over some things and think about it and try and find some peace and go back to our Heavenly Father and really deeply go into those prayers and ask for the understanding and a way through this. So after another few weeks, and I was mulling it over and getting there very slowly. I didn't do it in a fast way. And I did revert back to, no, he has no right to live. No, what that man has done. He's got no remorse. So it's only a week or a bit over a week ago, maybe a little bit longer. I was walking past my desk again and the phone rang. And guess what? Yep, you got it right. It was my precious Chantel. And at that stage, I was miserable because I could not reconcile any of it. And I'd gone into, it's not fair, self-pity, doubt. Well, I knew more and I understood more, and maybe God had got it wrong. And of course I could once again sit and really let my emotion out and speak with Chantel. And Chantel said some things that made absolute sense to me. And I needed to do this for me, but I needed to set him free. Because if I didn't and forgive him, because forgiveness is so important, it doesn't mean I'm weak. It doesn't mean it's not wrong what he'd done. But what I was thinking and how I was only hurting me and my heart and my soul. I had gone down such levels. There wasn't much difference between what he had done and was and what I was in. So really I had become him. And I had no forgiveness. And how could I expect a Heavenly Father who is love? He doesn't judge. Now, the truth is, I chose to be his daughter. He chose to be my father. Now let's get right back to the basics of it all. Stop putting that aside, Joanne, and say, oh, Joanne, no, do. And see it for what it is. Now, I work with men who lost their way. They've also been through their own abuses. And if nothing that I've gone through had ever happened, what good would I be to them? Because I wouldn't understand. How could I? Would I have compassion? No. Would I have any understanding? No. So, Chantel, oh, I can really feel the energy. And Chantel made contact with my father. And I said to her, just tell him, Jojo. Because that's what he always called me, was Jojo. And the contact was made. And Chantel got a look and feel his pain and what he went through. See, I don't excuse any of it. That's not what I'm doing. He used to have to hide under. In Australia, we've got some houses with they're on stilts, and there used to be a big area under the house where they'd put wood and things like that for the fire to keep them warm and other bits and pieces under there. Because his father, when he was drunk, used to try and find them with a rifle with a machete on it. So they had to hide. Their lives depended on it. His mother, when it came to sex abuse, wasn't very, and I know he chose to be their son and they chose to be the parents. Oh, sorry, baby. He jumped. And actually, while I'm talking to you, I can actually picture him. I'm seeing him hiding and being so quiet. His father was in the army and he was a champion boxer. And those boys didn't stand a chance. And none of them stayed in contact with the parents. They couldn't. And they couldn't have us around them because we would have experienced the same things. Again, I am not excusing anything. I am so grateful that we didn't have to face that. And gratitude must be acknowledged because it could have been more and far worse. My father used to sleep with a gun loaded all the time. He was petrified of the dark because that's when he'd be hunted. So, when Chantel was connected, I also became connected. And there was a three-way connection. Right into my soul. And with the understanding too that I can't keep putting this away and go, poor Joanne, you chose to do this. Your soul said, this is my job. And how can I help these people I work with now? Because I couldn't. Because I wouldn't have no understanding. None. So a few days later, because the sun was looking a bit more shiny, I did ring my father. And all I said to him, through his tears, because he said to me something had happened. He wasn't too sure what it was. And he was sobbing. And I said, Dad, I do love you. I do not hate you. And it has been a profound act of love. And as you can see, even the Joeys feel it when I feel it. Everything responds to it. Real love. Instead of condemning and living in that, like the red, which is danger, and that's anger, and that's hatred. And that's someplace we just can't afford to stay. Not even my father. You know? And I've spent quite a bit of time speaking with my sister. And as I said to her, don't ever underestimate the love you have. I said, your love to be able to do what you're doing is exactly what our Lord Jesus said you must have. Okay, yeah, Linda. Do you remember the vax? There was AstraZeneca. He had AstraZeneca and blood clots. They had to take his leg off to save his life. Now, I'll tell you a little story, and it's very relevant. As young children, whenever things were really bad, there was 5 of us. We would get in our little round circle, and we always made plans. We were going to, one day, build a big brick wall at the end of this big, long hill. And we told our father this many times. And then when he was stuck in that wheelchair, we were going to let him go from the top of that hill. So don't ever get yourself in a wheelchair, old boy. He's in a wheelchair.
Wow.
But we're not going to build that wall.
I was going to say, you're not going to build the ramp, right?
No. No, not at all. No. See, the scriptures say, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And I realize with the beautiful love and kindness of Chantel, I was trying to take that away and make it mine because I'm better, hey? No. That's where our pride comes into it and our egos. So Joanne to be like, okay, I think I got this wrong again. Only those that are humble, those that walk in his righteousness, in his words, who doesn't try and take it for themselves and mete out that and be judging. And it's not easy. Don't think I'm telling you it's easy, because it is not easy. But it feels better. Oh man, it feels so much better. You know, I enjoy my gardening. I enjoy my joeys more. They respond more. My children, my grandchildren. It's like those waves that come up to the shore, and you sometimes get a rogue wave, and it's huge. Think of the damage. That's right, there is none in revenge. The best revenge is to not take any.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the hardest part of life, you know. One thing I've understood very clearly about the spiritual realm, it does not operate the same as how we operate in the third dimension, right? Here we must remember on where we live in the third dimension, we're in the fallen state, literally, spiritually, we're living within the fallen state. So in order for us to move out of the fallen state or elevate out of the fallen state, we have to find tools. We have to, it's not about combating each other. Yeah, we do. We combat each other. We fight. We take revenge on each other. We go to see attorneys. We go to war with each other. And 95% of the time, mostly, we feel justified because somebody else has wronged us, right? Now, we can look at that in so many different ways in life. I mean, people can wrong us by just doing something minor, or there can be major wrongs. And I get that, okay? But I also feel like every situation that we encounter in life is an opportunity for growth. The more hectic the situation is, the more we are called to forgive. Not because it makes the other person right, but because it sets you free. When we choose to forgive, and Jan, I want to say this about, it was so powerful working with you. And it's true what you say. You know, there were on 2 or 3 occasions, I just knew I had to call you. So without any further ado, I pick up the phone and I called you like, what's up? You know? And in those moments, I knew that you were having a really hard time. And it's like, in those moments, though, having a conversation with you, you felt the truth. And it's very difficult to explain what it was, but it really is, it's helping you to love this man and find the love inside of yourself within every cell of your body that has spent decades abusing you. That's the power. And you see, to get to that place, we have to look beyond the pain. I keep saying, pain is not there to destroy you. Pain is not there to kill you. Pain is there to take you to a deeper level of awareness. And if you know, this is the thing where the Eastern teachings are so fantastic, because they teach you how to sit through the pain. And then when you sit through that pain, transformation occurs, because suddenly you know and you feel and you understand the truth within every cell of your body. And it's in that moment that I want to say, it's that where Jesus says, the truth shall set you free. The truth sets you free, because suddenly you look at this thing with completely different eyes. Suddenly, and it doesn't take away from what happened, but it gives you understanding on so many different levels. Like an obvious one would be, you got to see what happened to your father as a child. He was a complete product of abuse himself and abuse in the system. And it turned him completely. You saw him before he was abused. He allowed you to see that part of him. And that's what you connected to. And that's what brought in your healing. Because that true love that you and him felt before the abuse, soul to soul, nothing to do with physical, soul to soul, is what sparked the flame in you and dissolved the pain and brought you to a higher level of consciousness. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense what I'm saying.
It certainly does, because I saw the joy of him before they literally, like leeches, sucked it all out and gone. You know, and his vibration was so different. Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's what's the word? I can't think of the word. Mind-boggling is a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, you know what, Jan, I have to say, I give you so many kudos for that, because when we just looking in and I say a normal family because I don't even know what normal is anymore, but a family, let's say, where abuse wasn't prevalent, the father might have just been emotionally distant and couldn't express love, and therefore, you know, whatever. And, you know, I mean, just in situations like that, it's hard enough to forgive our parents, right? But when you've actually been to the extent that you have and you've been able to transform that, that's amazing, because you've seen the truth and the truth sets us free. So that really is incredible. And I want to say that's amazing. And I pray that each and every person on this planet gets that clarity. I really do, for in whatever situation.
Because it, as you said, it's healing in the soul level, and it's healing for both, you know. And it was safe too, because you were there, and the trust I have, and I've learned so much more trust. Because I mean, there was a time when women, no way would I trust a woman, no way in this world. But with all of this, and it was just profound, because so many times we try and ring each other, and we play phone tag. But on these particular occasions, there was no phone tagging, you know,
Yeah.
and it was divinely inspired, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the most precious gifts that we take away from this experience. And I think, as I said, I just think you're a precious, beautiful woman. Your soul is so, I feel you energetically, and I love that, you know. And it's the healing that's happening is a healing that's going to stay. It's not, I'm not going to step backwards. I'm not,
Transformed. You see, that's
yes,
true spiritual transformation, because you see, that's spiritual alchemy. And I know that, you know, when we're looking at the arcane, there are these horrific alchemists that work for the dark and that take all sorts of lotions and potions and concoctions and create all sorts of creatures of the night from that. True spiritual alchemy is what it, remember, the dark can't create, they can only mimic or invert. So true
yes,
spiritual alchemy equals transformation of the spirit. In other words, when you've understood the pain, when you no longer reject pain, you actually embrace the pain. And that might be quite what's the word I'm looking for? Gosh, there's a word. Sorry, my mind is hit a blank right now. It might be quite contradictory, or it might seem quite contradictory. But remember, energy can never be created or destroyed, only ever transferred or transformed. Anyone who does my workshops and my courses, that's the base mantra. Because everything in life is energy, and we can't, I mean, you can think you can shove it under the carpet. It's only going to make the pile bigger. You might not see it for the first 10 years, but eventually you're going to go, hey, something's smelling, yeah. And then you've got a huge, big issue to deal with, right? So
yeah,
it really is understanding that everything that occurs and has occurred in your life. And I want to say, go back to Jesse's teachings, and a lot of the teachers, the Christian teachers, they all say that Lucifer, they'll tell you, Lucifer goes to the throne room of God every day and gets permission to do what he does. including to you, to you, to you. But you see, I've learned how to not see things as people doing things to me. Why do I say that? Because immediately that puts me in a victim mode. You did that to me. Oh, I'm on the back foot, which makes the other one more powerful than you or stronger. But the only reason that he or she or whatever could crush me in that way, or whatever it might be, was because I had a chink in my armor there. And all that they're really doing is showing me where the chink in my armor is. It's up to me to go figure out how to unchink that chink, right? And that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's
every
happening
time,
not to you, but for you. It
exactly.
happens
So
for you.
exactly. It's so not someone doing something to me. They are being it for me. So that's where the alchemy of the mind takes place. You see, the transformation of the third eye, the perception. There's nothing airy-fairy about that. It is just understanding how the energy in the body works and how the mind and the heart, when we start linking the two, they start working together. The IQ and the EQ, in other words, the IQ is the husband, the mind is the masculine, right? The heart is the feminine, the EQ. So suddenly husband and wife start working together. And the throat chakra is our communication center, right? How many people have thyroid problems? How many people have neck problems? How many people have earache, right? All throat chakra issues. All throat chakra issues. In other words, you are not communicating the essence of your truth. And when you communicate the essence of your truth, illnesses start dissolving. Now you're talking in a succinct way. You're expressing yourself in a way that others can understand you. That is very important. So when you learn to forgive, you understand that it's not about you. You did not do something to that person for them to do that to you, if that makes sense. But you were a 50-50 player in this game. And whether it's passive or active, you have contributed to that action. And most people don't see that. They don't like to see that because most people like to blame. Gives them a better feeling because it means they don't have to look. And that's where your power lies, is to look inside of yourself. And that's, Joanne, what you did, is to then say, well, I chose my father long before I was born into this body. I chose him. I chose this experience with him. And God has ordained that. Why? What did I need to learn? And you see that the minute you turn that around, that's when you step out of the victim. And I'm not saying you were not victimized, but the time comes when you realize only a very, very powerful soul like you, Joanne, would have made the spiritual choice like that to be and have an experience like you did, and so many thousands of survivors, in order to teach others how to overcome trauma. That is the end goal.
That's it. And I actually, going a bit further on that, as I said, I work with a lot of men who trauma. And I had one of the gentlemen that I work with ring me out of the blue. He doesn't normally, he only when he comes here and he has his sessions and whatnot. And he texted and said, can I ring you? And I said, yeah. Well, this gentleman, only in the last couple of weeks, is now walking twice a day. He's losing weight. He's no longer not interested in living. He's actually starting to live again. So through me going through this whole experience has helped. And that's what we're here to do, is help people transmute that into healing. And he prays while he walks for an hour in the morning and an hour at night. Now that is what we're here to do. We can't do that if we're hung up on victimization. So that's...
And I'm going to put sorry, I'm just going to put Hannah's comment up. I know she not meant to say suck peace. You meant to say such peace, only by the grace of God. And I have to say, it is only by the grace of God you can forgive these atrocities. Only by the grace of God can you forgive these. Or your human mind does not allow you to forgive. It allows you to transmute, right? There's a difference between transmutation and transformation. Think about transmute. We live in opposing forces. So you might go from peace to pain, peace to pain, peace to pain. One moment you'll feel peaceful, the next minute someone says or does something, triggers you, and you straight back into that pain mode again. So you might be living through that, and that in the long run actually ends up making you sick. But when you understand the power that your soul is to have gone through that, and when you understand that when souls choose experiences such as your father and you chose, because it is an experience, it's not, it's only in this life you'll experience that. Thereafter your soul lives on, and you will contain that information and you will use it in good or in bad. That's up to you, right? So the experience you and your father had, has evolved you, and that would then be for you to understand through that, because that would give you the peace to understand, you always had the power. You always had, and power is not, it's,
that's weakness.
That's power. Power is from the heart. True power is when you generate love in its true essence, not combative love, not obsessive love. That's fear, right? So you've always had the power. And how do you know? Because you came through that. You lived through that. You transformed. You've healed. You've now in the place where you want to give back. That's how we know that you've transformed. It's not this thing anymore. You've understood by the grace of God what you've had to gain through this horrific abuse you went through. It doesn't change what you experienced, and we will never negate that. But it's given you so much more than what you could ever imagine in a positive.
Absolutely. And again, I think when you see it going with the ones that you work with, I mean, and their lives are changing, and they're going back and talking to God about everything that they've been through, and they have that relationship building as well. I mean, it's the anger, the rage, all of that, that's weakness, and that's fear, and that's red to me. No, but the heart is not. And love, it doesn't keep account of injury. It doesn't hold a grudge. It doesn't. So they're learning all of this and then walking in that peace and knowing I sleep better. Everything improves. And my dog loves me more because she is so connected. Because what I feel, she feels. Even with these little joeys, they pick up the vibration. Every single animal does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chevy, I just want to put this up here as well. Trauma. Well, I've got a little feline demon right now who's standing at the back of my chest, scratching and clawing because I'm not giving her treats.
Look at you, you beautiful kitty cat. Oh.
I say that, and it's so true. Trauma and demonic attachments go hand in hand, absolutely. And I hope all of you here have watched my shows with Jerry Marzinski, my interviews with him, because he absolutely nails that in terms of that. Okay, so absolutely, invariably, when childhood trauma, sexual trauma, abuse, anything like that opens those doors wide. Satanic family bloodlines, a main one for that, right? So when we can then heal that trauma through forgiveness, because you see, they keep us in trauma by constantly I mean, there'll be constant reminders or constant situations when you're in a space of trauma that will trigger you and take you into that traumatic space, right? Oftentimes that happens when you're still in that place of transmuting energies, right? And then when you get to the place of transforming it, that's when everything changes, and then you don't have it anymore. But that is exactly, you know, when you forgive, when you're able to see the truth, when you understand, you know, when you truly walk in the light of God, they cannot touch you after that. They can't. You just not, it's like you're in a different dimension to them completely.
And I think that's, you got to be extremely careful with mainstream counselling, because they keep you reliving. You're not turning to the one that can actually help you get through it, because they don't turn to our Heavenly Father, and they don't advocate to turn to the one that can really help. You know, so when it comes to that, because I actually trained in mainstream counselling before I went alternative, and I went out of that mainstream and I worked with abused children. I used to run groups, and it was damaging them even more and more. And I saw it then. So that's why I walked away from that to do more on the holistic side and go back to God.
Absolutely.
Because that's not cool. It's only there. So every single time you go and see this counsellor or your sites and things like that, they're giving you synthetic medications. It's like a Band-Aid on an open wound that will never heal. And that's how they keep you. You know.
Exactly.
And they do it because they like to hear. They like, and they literally get off on what you are reliving.
Yes, it's absolutely, it's that loosh. It's that loosh, right? And because the more trauma they create in your life, and remember, I mean, you got to know the shadow, our shadow brethren and sisters, right? They will absolutely, they create trauma. They have to create chaos, because the realm of chaos is what creates trauma in our lives and chaos. And of course, as we so often say, that fear creates the energy, which is like chocolate for them.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Forgiveness, kindness, compassion. My gosh, you know, often I get mocked by people because can I just like be normal? And I'm like, I am normal. You don't even know. I'm far from perfect. But the fact that you're always out there trying to help others, I mean, I'm getting told that. And I'm like, it's not that I'm trying to, it's just what I do. It's like my life.
Because it's so foreign to them.
The minute people start saying stuff like that, you got to realize there's an entity in them that is getting chafed, man. It's like sandpaper on their nerves. They don't like it, so they'll come for you. They might go for you, or you know, they'll just disappear out your life. So there's lots of interesting. And really, it's such a good. This is such a good time to do the introspection, because the more we're doing the introspection and the inner work, the forgiveness and coming to terms with, or at least just taking the steps towards it. You see, the minute you start, you just choose to say, oh my God, Joanne, I've no idea how you forgave your father after everything he's done. And mine didn't do a tenth of what he's done, or he's done 10 times or as bad. I have no idea how to forgive, but I want to. I want to forgive. Just coming to that step of, I want to forgive, is already raising your vibration. Okay? People say, you know, I get mocked for talking about raising your vibration. But again, when people mock me for saying stuff like that, it's because I understand they have no idea what I'm speaking about. Just doing something that puts you in a happier space. Remember, your emotions are your fuel. Just doing something that puts you in a happier space is raising your vibration. Getting up and washing your face if you haven't washed your face is raising your vibration. Brushing your teeth, taking a shower, changing your linen, tidying your space, if you haven't done it, is raising your vibration. You're taking steps towards improving your life. And that means, you see, we've got to get to the point that we love ourselves so much that we absolutely have to care about every emotion we feel. You've got to care about yourself enough to care about how you feel, because your feelings are your fuel. And if you are constantly in a negative spiral, you're going to get sucked down. And if you are focusing on that which is more positive, more aligned with God's will for you, you also then going to get drawn into that momentum. But it's your choice. And especially now, I mean, we're at the time where we have to make that choice, you know, especially where we are now. So it's all about our emotions. It's all about our freedom.
It is. And the choices we do make will either, as you say, raise and and stay in that and go back to our Heavenly Father in prayer all the time. It doesn't matter what you're doing, stay grounded. I mean, if I get a little bit testy, if you like, and one thing Tony will say to me is, Joey, get out in the garden. You need to.
Yeah,
you know,
grounding, beach.
Yeah.
Get out in nature. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other night, he was a bit off. And I said to him, well, get out, take your shoes off. And for the first time in a very long time, he went and sat outside and put his feet in the sand. You know, so
nice.
we help each other by reminding each other as well, I think, and to stay away from mainstream counselling and turn back to God, because he knows us better than any of us. We don't know ourselves like he knows us. And that's my biggest advice, you know, and to stay in that love. Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Joanne, it's always such a lovely pleasure chatting with you. You know that. You're one of my favorite people.
Oh,
and
thank
it's
you.
always such a pleasure to have you all in the chats. Lisa D, Chevy cool lady, voice for the voiceless. I like that.
Let me do this for our beautiful Lisa today. Just so Lisa, you can have a little look, Lisa. I promise. Because our beautiful Lisa has given so much for our Joeys here. And on that note too, we've actually successfully, yes it is Lisa, it's Pixie. We've released 5 Joeys over this last season. Oh no, 9, sorry, that was wrong. Back into the wild mob. And they are thriving. So we've lost some, but we've also done really well with 9 that have made it and gone back to our their wild mobs, and they're doing really well. So I just wanted to make sure you know that as well. and that'll raise your vibrations because those beautiful creatures are out there living their best life. Isn't that the most precious
That's
thing?
so true. That is so true. But I have to actually tell you, and I think I might have told this story before. When I moved into my new place, which has been just about a year ago, talking about animals, and of course, you all know I always feed the birds. I always buy bird seed, and I've got my guinea fowls and my doves that come, and I just love it because they're so happy. I watch them, when I feed them. They come flying from far away, and the little legs doom, 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 as they're running and peck, 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 and they chase the other one, and up to about like 200 doves at a time will come and eat. And of course, the guinea fowls now as well, which I love. And so this property was definitely not happy when we moved in here. There was all sorts of rifts and things. My mom fell. The water was giving, and I just knew because, long story short, anyway, it doesn't matter. I got there, but got to the point. And there was the pinnacle of the fall happening and what have you. And so the one day I was literally sitting where I am, and I looked up, and this dove came walking to my sliding door. And I was like staring at him and almost like a surreal space. Now, hearing the voices of animals is not a strange thing for me. I've been hearing them since I was a child. And then the next thing, this dove says to me, "We are very happy you're okay." And I said, "Thank you." And he said, "Thank you for feeding us." And then he flew away. But it was so weird. I sat there for a few seconds. I'm like, dude, what did that mean? And then I just got this download from him that feeding them and the pecking all the time has healed the rifts, if you will, or the tears in the energy field that was here before, because there was lots of pain. There was an old African man that was always looking for this, looking for that. So it was amazing how the pecking, and of course the doves symbolize peace, right? The constant pecking, the happiness, the joy has healed the area in which I live. So that for me was incredible. And these are the things we don't see. And this is how, when we connect with, and it's not even connecting in that way, it's just feeding stray animals, feeding the cats in your neighborhood, spending an extra $50 a month getting some food or whatever, feeding the birds in the area. I mean, I'm sorry. People say, you mustn't feed the wild animals. I say, I don't care, man. These things fly around. They're the fattest pigeons in the whole of South Africa. And they're not pigeons, they're doves. And they come from me. And I'm happy for them.
Yeah, I'm the same. I feed them all here. I've got little feeding stations, and I love it.
And I want to tell you that since then, this energy on this property has changed completely. No more dodginess that comes in here in the middle of the night, boy, trying to wreak havoc in my house.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Anyway, guys and girls, God bless you all. Joanne, it's always a pleasure to have you. Look forward to having you back in a couple of weeks again. And also, I'm going to be posting Joanne's interview on Gnostic TV. I'll be doing that next day or two, so watch the space. Again, on Gnostic TV, remember we do uncensored things and goes into quite a bit of depth of her experience, etc., etc. And then, of course, on Wednesday with Jessie, we're going to have, and that is 2:30 my time, 9:30 EST. We're going to have Joanne, Jessie, and Janine Florum, who was with Jerry Marzinski, whose son unalived 4 people. She's got a psychopath, sociopath son, including his girlfriend. And while he was doing it, he called on the phone, and just horrific. So mother's incredible story of overcoming stuff like this. And of course, Danny Henderson. I love Danny Henderson. She'll be co-hosting with me because you all know I can't handle you 3 wenches on my own.
Oh, no, that is beautiful.
Oh, funny.
And we are.
Oh, funny. Anyway, okay, guys, thank you. Yes, I agree, Lisa D. The Gnostic TV interviews are awesome because people can speak freely. Remember, we're a lot more censored here. So, Joanne, is there anything else you want to say just in closing before we end off today's show?
Well, thank you very much, and love you all you usual suspects, as Shanti puts it. And absolutely, you're so precious, Shanti, and thank you.
So are you, babes. So are you. And so are all of you gorgeous people that are watching us and contributing to our shows. And just, yeah, you know, please like, share, subscribe. Just get this information out there far and wide. Everyone needs to know what's going on. I just kind of feel it's like and you know what, right now, astrologically as well, and yeah, I know a lot of people don't talk about astrology, but astrology is very real. Pluto has moved into Aquarius and is going to be there for the next 20 years, which means there's going to be a lot of stuff, a lot of truth that starts surfacing. But it's up to us to be discerning. You got to sift through what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So, time for discernment, and it's really not going to come from anyone else other than from your beautiful self within you. So, tune in. Beautiful to feel your alignment with God, because that is the only place that the truth lies. And again, just to highlight, I think it was it as somebody was saying early on, of the grace of God, you can only do this type of healing through the grace of God. So God bless you all. Take good care of yourselves. And yes, I am appreciative of everyone who likes, shares, and subscribes. Take good care, everybody, and have a beautiful weekend. I'll see you soon.